What's up, everybody? This is Burn.
And this is Rye, and you were listening to the Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. Oh man, today is a special day. This is an emergency episode. I'm gonna say that proudly.
Just the
Um,
breaking news.
yeah, but before we do, how are you, my brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm doing all right. Just doing a lot better now.
Oh my God, yes. So the reason for today's emergency episode, our last couple episodes, as everyone knows, has just been our recommendations and brief reviews on movies from streaming platforms such as Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, etc. But today, with the exciting news of HBO Max not only releasing later this month, next year, May 2021, the Snyder Cut of Justice League from 2017 is finally getting released.
Finally. Wait, so they set a date? Actually, May?
Right now, the projected date is May 7th, 2021. So that's why I'm also super excited.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I just saw, the 2021. I didn't know they actually like had it, saying that it was going to come out earlier in the year. So that
Oh,
that even makes me more excited.
trust me, dude. Since the few hours of this release, I have been scratching up as much info as I can on this. So for those of you who don't know, the Snyder Cut is Zack Snyder's original raw cut footage of Justice League from 2017. Because just a quick brief info on the whole ordeal with that. It was filming in 2016. However, Zack Snyder, the director of Justice League, as well as Batman vs Superman and Men of Steel, he had to depart because his daughter committed suicide. God rest her, and condolences still go out to the Snyder family because that's not never easy thing to deal with, especially with suicide. So he had to leave, and a month later, after his departure, the studio execs at the time brought in Joss Whedon to finish that cut, and it was not an easy thing to finish. But just quick brief of what happened with that. It did not do well critically nor financially. I mean, it still made 658 million, which isn't bad, but for what the Justice League should have brought in, it's a vast underachievement.
Yeah, exactly. Like having the Justice League movie, the big team up movie, the Avengers of the DC universe come in at lower than all the other movies. I mean, that just really is a slap in the face.
Yeah, because these characters, Superman and Batman have been around for decades, almost 100 years in another 10-ish years.
Yeah, I mean, and
But
arguably Superman and Batman being the biggest two comic book characters of all time.
yeah, you think it should have been better. And again, Zack Snyder, he's a very divisive director. For me, he's divisive in the fact that I feel like he relies too much on source material. However, disregard what you don't like about him. I love his work. He's a fantastic visual director, one of the best in the business, especially with action. With the action in his superhero films, it is almost it can't be replicated by others. He's done a fantastic job with that at least. And I had high hopes for him, especially after growing my love for Man of Steel. It did take me a couple viewings, but I learned to love him. And then Batman vs Superman, I loved his rendition of Batman and a lot of the commentary with modern day politics, the superheroes themselves, and just the reality of it all. I absolutely fell in love with that. And Justice League, yeah, with the change, you notice the changes. You can, if you've seen Zack Snyder's other movies, like maybe Sucker Punch, Watchmen, and even the other two DC movies, you'll see the differences, and you can tell right away. Okay, yeah, they kind of scrapped most of his work.
Yeah,
Um,
and even for someone with a keen eye, you can just even look at just the actors themselves. I mean, Ben Affleck being the biggest, Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill being the biggest ones to pinpoint what it was changed with the Henry Cavill and the whole mustache gate that
oh my God, the fake
that's
chin, the fake
yeah
mouth.
the fake mouth, just because he was filming Mission Impossible Fallout at the time, and his character in that movie, if you haven't seen it, has pretty noticeable
Uh,
facial hair, to say the least.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that
so
was
so
just
that was one thing, and then you can also see with Ben Affleck that he had not really been in the best of shape in the time of reshoots as compared to, the current shape he was in at the time of the initial production. So those are like things that, definitely stick out to a lot of people who know about the reshoots and know about, the changes that went on behind the scenes. So, I mean, just judging from that, you can see that a lot of the film was different than what it was going to be initially.
Yeah, and I just want to, talk about what led up to this momentous day in entertainment and, a project that's been started by fans, argued and petitioned and just fought for by fans. I mean, I never signed a petition, but I did hashtag release the Snyder Cut when I first joined Twitter because I'm sorry, I want I when you watch the original trailers and footage for Justice League, you'll notice like, okay, these are some of Snyder's shots, and I never got to see that in the film because I remember watching, thinking, wait, where is this story? Where is this? And where is this from? Zack Snyder's film. So multiple sources have claimed, especially Snyder himself has said, only a quarter of his original footage is in that film, a quarter
Yeah,
of his work.
yeah, a quarter at most. Like, I mean, you go back to him saying that the original assembly cut of it was like 214 minutes long, and then you see that the movie, the theatrical cut, came in at just what 120 minutes, and it looks like more than 50% of that were reshoots. So I think we barely saw really anything of the original thing.
Yeah, and reshoots, for those of you who don't know or aren't too familiar with reshoots in movies, when you first heard about reshoots, maybe 10 plus years ago, you thought, oh crap, that's not good. And that kind of was the case for some movies, that they had to reshoot stuff for story purposes, budget purposes, whatever reason you could think of. Nowadays, reshoots are part of the end game. They are now natural, that okay, let's go back and shoot this a different way. Let's change this. Maybe we didn't like this, so let's change that real quick. And it
Hmm.
usually isn't an issue. But Justice League was a prime example of how reshoots can be negative. Can be. I highlight that can be, where
Yeah.
Marvel and Star Wars movies have had reshoots and it worked out perfectly fine.
Yeah. No, and reshoots are now a commonplace, especially with bigger budget films, because you don't really know how the movie's coming together until you actually get all the footage together and have a rough idea of how things are going to turn out. And then, in the edit, they decide, okay, maybe this doesn't work, maybe we should retool this, or maybe this isn't coming across as exactly we want it to. So, I mean, now in contracts for the movies, they have set time aside for reshoots and all those things, so that way they're not scrambling at the end of the movie and being like, okay, we got to get this all together. They have time and resources allocated to saying, okay, if we're going to dedicate these few weeks or days to reshoots, and the actors will be on call when we need them, so it just makes the whole process a lot simpler after the fact.
Exactly. That's exactly the point I was trying to make. It's part of the workplace now. And anyways, let me start back to that. So with, like I said, when there was the whole behind the scenes issues and Ben Affleck, like Snyder was going through his family loss, Ben Affleck was dealing with his issues with addiction, alcoholism specifically. So it was almost like a cursed shoot to begin with. However, that doesn't matter. Let's fast forward to when it released. Like I said before, it did not have great ratings from all sorts of critics, and box office it didn't do well. And I just want to briefly say I have blamed Snyder, or not Snyder, Whedon and the studio execs for it being bad, but in the end, the movie business is a gamble. People will like it, people won't, and that's all you can really do. And it's hard to kind of pick up somebody else's work. It's almost like a tattoo artist sometimes doing another artist's work. Nobody wants to do that, and it's so hard to perfect somebody else's art. So with that going on, 5 days after the movie released in 2017, there was already 100,000 signatures for a petition to release Zack Snyder's original cut on change.org. And petitions have also become commonplace now. Everybody needs a petition for something, whether it's good or bad. Do I agree
Yeah.
with them all the time? No, but this one I wish I signed. Well, maybe I did. I don't remember because that was a few years ago now, but I was on board with the Snyder Cut because I love Zack Snyder's work. I hope to keep seeing more of his work soon, but I know him and his family needed a lot of time to get through the grief and all that. So multiple sources report that this is all started by fandom, good and bad. Good that fans are wanting to see this work. We're arguing for Warner Brothers. Please just service the fans with this. But it's also brought in negative fandom, which the toxicity with pop culture has just increased over the last few years.
Uh-huh.
Not only at Jeff Johns, who was the head of DC at the time, and Joss Whedon saying they're snakes, that you guys messed this up. And then, and recently, even at Jenkins and Reeves, because of the Wonder Woman and Batman movies, saying that why should their work get prioritized over the Snyder Cut? And quick note to that. Fans, I know I'm like you. We're like you guys. We don't, if we don't like something, we may blame people for that, but there's an old saying: if you don't have anything nice to say, keep it to yourself. Don't bully people on Twitter. Don't go after somebody, by any means, because it isn't just one person's fault, and even if it is, nobody wants to hear that. Okay,
Yeah.
just be open minded, be accepting of the work. And again, that's why you have petitions, you have other ways of getting stuff, or you rely on other source material, graphic novels, animated films, other DC movies. It doesn't mean, everything else is bad because of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line. No, well, no, there isn't. There's definitely a line where there's, constructive criticism, and then there's just blatant bullying. Like, I mean, we should never cross that line. If something comes out within the IP that you love, or like, like Star Wars or Marvel or DC or just anything, like if something comes out and you don't enjoy it, I mean, it's okay to voice your displeasure. That's one thing. It's another thing to go after the people involved and, harass them. That's a totally unacceptable thing to do.
Yeah, like I've said before, maybe a little hypocritical of me, I did not care for Game of Thrones the final season, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go after the writers and on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and bully them. That's not okay. I just want to get that out there right now. If you're going to be a fan, still be as positive as you can, constructive criticism, or just don't say anything at all and go about your daily life. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's exactly the thing. And if you're fans of us, we're the Bodacious Rant crew. We're not about that toxicity.
Exactly. I can't say enough how much I don't want that, whether it be at us or movies, shows, just please, be positive or don't say anything at all. That's all I can say. Now, fast forward, after the family did what they could with grief, the hashtag, it became the most tweeted hashtag for any Warner Brothers movie. And Snyder even said it's weird, but it's good because it technically doesn't exist, which it doesn't. There is no true final cut. Well, I know we said that there was a 4-hour cut that he originally pitched, and they had to cut it down. But
Yeah.
in the end, it became once Whedon came in, it all just became footage. There is
Yeah,
no
and then
specific
that
cut.
yeah, and that 4 hour cut is not like, okay, it was all done, completely finished, ready to go out to theaters. No, it's just literally an assembly cut, edits coming in from the assembly that they got from everywhere, and it's basically just a rough picture of what the overall film could look like with unfinished scenes, no color coding, no music, no effects, just a basic outline of the movie. It wasn't done.
No, not at all. So that literally just means you're watching Ben Affleck on wires and green screen, and Superman with his beard still ready to go. I'm just kidding. I don't think he had a beard when they first shot it, but you know what I mean. But the positive thing is Snyder, when he had to go, he took that footage home with him, so he still had it on a hard drive, which multiple sources have reported. And I thought, damn, that's a good idea. But even he at the time didn't think it's going to go anywhere, just because there was no real conclusive evidence of it except for what he had.
Oh yeah, and then
And then
the studio released the movie, so it's like at that point, I guess in his head and a lot of other people's head, it was like, okay, it's done, that's it. The movie's out there, and that's the one that the studio put out, and that's it.
exactly. So let's fast forward to last year Comic-Con of 2019 because release the Snyder Cut, all it was a hashtag. That's all we can do. Snyder did kind of tease images over the last couple of years about
Hmm.
him from his storyboards, from his actual behind the scenes footage. So it's like, okay, you're fueling the fire a little bit, but that's all it is. It's just another topic to talk about, kind of get people's heads going. But with Comic-Con last year, I remember that too, was that they had a Times Square billboard and a banner fly over San Diego saying release the Snyder Cut, which got me excited because it's like,
Hmm.
okay, you guys are not only wanting this to happen, but there are some confirmation. There is something there. There is evidence that it's there. And not even just the DC crew, a couple other actors, and even Rob Liefeld, the director of Deadpool and creator of Deadpool, even he was like, yeah, is it real? Can we see this? I want to know. Um, but what also helped is that last year, is that Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman and Batman in those movies, they pitched in their encouragement to let's release this, let's see what it goes, and actually kind of confirmed, yeah, there's a cut. We're waiting to see it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like it's crazy because even that point, what last year? That was 2 years after the movie came out. Like the conversation has just never stopped, and it's died down here and there. But then all like you said, the Comic Con that this seems like around the same time, 2018, 2019, when the hashtags just resurfaced again. The fans coming in together and just wanting to voice their want for the cut. And that's pretty cool to see, that a movie, 2 years later is still gaining like this sort of like discussion.
Exactly. And that's what really propelled the hashtag to get so much attention by fans, by other entertainment personnel. It was a big deal. I think that was like one of the biggest things from Comic-Con last year, which is what I kind of remember. I haven't been at Comic-Con in a few years, which Comic-Con, if you listen to this or anyone does, we would appreciate passes again. We
I
love
would like to
Comic-Con.
get into the waiting room at least.
I dropped money, please just help us, please. Anyway, so after that, Deborah, his wife, who also helps produce the movies and helps Zach out with a lot of production. Her and him were kind of thinking, okay, people want this. How do we get this going? Let me see. Let me find my notes here because I did take notes on this. Trust me, I'm as unprepared as I was. I try to be as prepared as possible.
Yeah,
Um,
while you do that, I just want to go back to speak on, the fandom that, yeah, they did the hashtags and, they got billboards and they got, flybys and all that stuff. But I mean, I think the biggest thing that they did as a collective group was raising money for the American Foundation for Suicide Awareness. I think as of now, they've raised over like $100,000 or something for the foundation. And, that was is sort of in, memory of, Zack Snyder's daughter and just the whole situation that started this whole thing. And I mean that just shows the good that a fandom can do, coming together and doing something like that.
Exactly, and I also give credit to the fans who really put all their work into this. You guys. I mean, I can only talk about it, through my own means, but the fans really came together, and we, as casual fans like ourselves, we appreciate that, especially for the suicide awareness. That's still a huge problem, huge issue in our country and just around the world in general. So, we give love to those families who've lost someone to those means, and keep strutting on as much as you can. So, like I said, in February this most recent year, a couple months ago, Zach and Deborah put a presentation together for studio execs such as Toby Emmerich, who, when he started hearing about release of Snyder Cut, he kind of was thinking to Zach, and I quote, "This is real. People out there want it. Would you guys ever consider doing something?" Snyder recalled that, and which is like, okay, he is the chairman of Warner Brothers. So if you can get his attention, that's a great sign already.
Hmm.
So like I said, in February, they invited some executives from WB, like Warner Brothers, HBO Max, and DC their home in Pasadena for just a little screening of the raw footage that he had. And among those people, which was more than a dozen, it was Toby Emmerich, Karen Blackwood, who's a Warner Brothers producer, who she produced the Hobbit trilogy in the last 5 years, 6 years. Walter Hamada, who was a film executive and producer, who recently got promoted to the head of DC Films.
Yeah, and he's been the one that spearheaded this, I guess, this new wave of DC movies with like Aquaman and the upcoming Wonder Woman, Birds of Prey, and I think he did not as much of a hand, but a little bit of a hand in the Joker, since that's a little more separated from the cinematic universe of the DC movies.
Exactly. Props to Hamada. He's doing a great job so far. And HBO Max's Kevin Riley, Sarah Aubrey, Sandra Dewey, and even the head of DC, Jim Lee. They all showed, from what I've seen, they've all really showed importance of, if we do this, let's do it right for the sounds of it, which is also a great sign. And they even had the heads of physical production to kind of say, okay, how much would this cost? Let's break that down. And little to say the meeting was a success. Executives left the meeting excited and wanting to do this. But then, as we all know, the virus, struck America in not just March, but it really forced everything to shut down in March. And there was, with everything, being canceled, pushed back, Deborah and Zack Snyder were kind of saying, no, let's keep this going. Because with all those visual effects houses losing work and all that stuff, they still held on to original assets, which is still a positive thing because that means they could work however they need to. And this has just kind of propelled it even more. So, and that's what led to today, really, is that, like, okay, we got a release date for it. We're going to get to work on it. And, with April and May happening, with April and May recently, Snyder's just started reaching out to the cast themselves saying, hey, basically this is starting to become a real thing. This may happen. And Ray Fisher was like, are you kidding me? Like, in disbelief, which is, I would imagine that as an actor, like, oh, is this real? Like, are you lying to me right now? Because I'd be like, don't lie to me. Please don't do this to me.
Yeah, I mean, you're hearing this news 3 years later. I mean, it must be like crazy for them to hear that. Oh, hey, we're doing this again. We want you back just in case for like reshoots or like ADR sessions. But just coming back into that role after 3 years that you thought was over and done with must be a huge thing for a lot of the actors.
Quick question: what ADR is that? Audio related? Just so for that,
oh yeah. So yeah, just for you and for those who don't know, ADR is just it's post production audio work. So redubbing, resinging. Just because you record sound on set, but a lot of the times you can't, either due to big effects work or just the environment that the set is in. Sometimes the dialogue or the audio that you get from there is not usable, or at least to the quality that you want. So actors and will come in after the fact in post production, usually when there's a finished cut of the movie, to re-record lines. And I mean, most of the time it's not even noticeable. Most of, if not all, of the dialogue or sound that you hear in any given action scene is done after the fact, just because a lot of microphones cannot record dialogue and explosions at the same time. It's just not possible.
Even when you watch
just for those who don't know.
Yeah, even when you watch behind the scenes of like action stunts, like especially recently with Extraction, them releasing a lot of like behind the scenes shots on Instagram and other social media, you could definitely kind of notice the difference between the final product and actually shooting it, because the sound is definitely not as good. It does, you can only film so much on set with action scenes and even other dialogue. But sometimes, yeah, you do, like you said, you do have to go back and touch it up. Even when I filmed small projects, you just have to do some sort of voiceover for any reason.
Just because in a live environment, you just can't control the elements. So you always want the best at the end of the day, and that a lot of the times you have to come in and do work after the fact, and that's what it's there for, post production.
Exactly. So, and this has just gotten so much positivity to within the few hours today from executives, crew, and honestly, it's a chance for to kind of help, any Hollywood project to be like, okay, if we can do visual effects stuff at home, that'd be great. It's just trying to help get some work going again,
Hmm.
and and it's going to allow this project to finally be, 3 years in the of hard work and 3 years of just of anticipation finally coming next year in May. And so far, right now, because it was a little over 4 hours of raw footage, which is what Snyder originally wanted to release, and I'm personally fine with it. I know anything past 2 hours for people, or even an hour and a half, is very difficult. I can understand that because there are some movies that do drag on too much. But hey, if you've seen the Lord of the Rings extended cuts, there's nothing you can't sit through after that. That's all I'm gonna say.
The Lord of the Rings, Titanic, Avatar, Avengers Endgame, that was 3 hours long. So, I mean, long movies can be an issue for some, but I think if, people are interested enough, it shouldn't be an issue. I mean, we sit down on our couches for hours and hours at a time, binge watching stuff. So, length isn't really an issue unless it's something that's just not interesting.
Which is exactly what I'm talking about. They could either be the full 4 hour cut, or he did propose at his presentation in February to the executives that we could break it up into 6 chapters. So it makes it easier. And that could be,
Mm.
I feel like that would be a viable route for people to really get into and get invested in it. Because I know I could sit and watch it for 4.5 hours, 4 hours, especially for the first time. Anything after that would be a little difficult. I'm not going to lie. But we've seen an example on Netflix right now. Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, which is one of his longest movies. I had trouble watching it the first time just because it's a very dialogue heavy film, and I love his dialogue, but too much of it in my opinion. But the director's cut, which is over the 3 hours, I think it's around 4 hours, is broken up into 4 chapters.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I may take just a rewatch it just to maybe think, okay, maybe it was my headspace at the time. Maybe I just had higher hopes for it. I don't know. I'll give that a look see. But
Yeah.
sometimes breaking up movies into chapters and or scenes can be easier and better for the viewing experience.
Yeah, I mean that might be the closest comparison with a long movie being broken up into smaller chapters. I mean the movie itself, the Hateful Eight, was kind of sectioned off into chapters, so I'm sure it wasn't that hard, after the fact to sort of edit it to be a little more episodic. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't speak to it. I've only seen the movie. I mean, just to see that they did that with that movie, it goes to show that if you edit things a certain way, you can make it seem a little more episodic, and that way you're not sitting just watching one thing straight for 4 hours. You can indulge in it, and you can take it in at your own pace, and it's not too much of the hassle to kind of just slog through the whole thing. You can be like, okay, I'll take it in an hour today. I'll watch an episode tomorrow. You can go in at your own pace, and that's just consumer friendly.
Exactly. So there, like I said, there is no real. They're still working on that. We have a year for them to perfect it. So, well, I'm not going to stress about it either way. I am just so happy that not only Snyder, the Snyders can finally get their closure on the project, which a couple sources have said, but by defining closures, that he finally gets to see his work finished. Like his little trilogy of the DC beginning of the DC films can finally come to his story conclusion, and it's a way to finally say, I dealt with my grief. Let's get back to work. Let's finish it up. So that way he can kind of keep moving on with other projects, saying I did this. And that's how I would at least look at it, is that
Hmm.
I did what I needed to do, and now I can finish this. And it's just a matter of getting the crew together, post production, the actors together, because that's really all that needs to be done. It's just post production, because it's shot. There's the footage. We just had to touch it up. And I'm hoping that with the post facilities having their original assets, it is possible that they can, people can maybe do it from home. I haven't really seen how they plan to do that. But we have a release date. The projected budget to finish this would be 20 to 30 million. So it is a little costly, but at the same time, it's giving people opportunity to work. And this will be HBO Max's defining moment for next year.
Yeah.
Good or bad.
Yeah.
They,
Exactly.
So, and it does come out later this month, which I'm excited for because it's going to have a slew of HBO content. DC, there are going to be some DC films and shows on there. So it is a matter of just encompassing all of Warner Brothers works, or even outside of Warner Brothers work. So I'm excited for the app. I know but my brother was asking me, are we going to upgrade? I'm like, absolutely. I just got to figure out, you know, the whole specifics of it. And this today just nailed it in the coffin. I'm getting HBO Max.
Yeah, I mean, I did a little research on that myself. So it says currently, if you do have an HBO Now subscription, you will automatically have access to the HBO Max platform.
Oh my God, yes!
So I looked into that because I was like, I have HBO Now. I don't want to have to, spend money on an entirely different platform. But it seems that they already took that into account. So this would be, a changeover from those subscribers and a move to get a whole bunch of new subscribers that already weren't sold on the platform itself. Honestly, at the end of the day, it is a really smart business move. Like you said, 20 to 30 million is the projected budget. That's about 2 episodes of Game of Thrones. I mean, it is at the end of the day an investment on not only the movie itself, but on their platform. Having something like this so that they know that there's a huge fan base behind it only guarantees viewers and subscribers. So, I mean, it is a win-win for everybody. The studio and the platform get their audience, and then Zack Snyder and the other artists involved get to have a sense of closure with the project that they started 3 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, again, I want to thank the fans, all their positivity, all their, petitioning, hashtagging. I've done a couple hashtags, maybe one specifically, but like I said, so I did something, not a lot. But then, and the next is just to Snyder and Gadot, Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, and Jason Momoa this week. I told you about this playing Call of Duty that, hey, he's like, let's release it. We got nothing to do. Come on now, like let's get to it. And given it is coming out next year, but at least the fact that it's getting this momentum and the hardest part is the planning, which is working now. It's getting to it now. So
Yeah.
again,
And
like I can't thank everyone enough for that.
yeah, and like what was mentioned earlier, and I think was addressed by like Deborah herself, with a lot of movies being pushed back and productions being halted. All really you can do at this point in time is a lot of post production work. So they figured, I mean, now is the time. I mean, we have all these assets and we have all this work. Like you said, it could give people jobs, and we have people working during this time of overall production halt. So now is the best time of any.
Again, man, I'm just in disbelief it's finally happening. Because I'm like I said, I got my Ben Affleck Batman shirt right now, my Dark Knight shirt, because like I said, especially the extended cut of Batman vs Superman, I love the whole. I love Ben Affleck's point of view with it, all the debates on Superman and what he really means, and just Batman, and it just addresses so many things within the comic book world, and how it would be, and if they existed in real life right now. It is just his work has really encouraged me to want to get into that business even more and see where it could go, especially because it draws so much influence from like the Injustice universe, Dark Knight, Returns, and then I think All Star Superman. I forgot which Superman specifically, but it's just a culmination of everything, and we're finally going to see that next year. Hopefully, it doesn't get delayed with whatever issues. Right now, we got a release date. That's all I can say, and I'm thrilled with that. And again, thank you to all the actors, Zack and Deborah Snyder, the Warner Brothers executives. You guys are finally. I mean, I don't want to say this. I want to put this as politely as possible. You're coming to your senses on this, and I myself, as a fan of Batman, Superman, the Justice League team, I can't thank you guys enough. And fans, I hope you guys are looking forward to it too, especially those of Snyder's world. We're finally going to see this story and what it really can still do for the DC universe now. Because, in my opinion, if this does come out beautifully, which it sounds like it's doing really well so far, then though they could get back to that. So I'm psyched.
Yeah, I mean the potential is really out there. I mean we don't really know. I mean how it'll turn out. with the reception and all that, but at least we'll be able to get, a nice bookend, like you said, to the creative vision that was started from the beginning of Man of Steel. Like we get to see finally the payoff to storylines that were started at that point, continued on through Batman versus Superman, and then that were just kind of thrown away with the theatrical cut of Justice League. So it'll be nice to see, the entire creative vision encompassed and complete and done. And on one end you can say, okay, that's it. Like that was that part of the DC movies. We know that tie a nice bow on it. This particular vision is done. We're going to be moving on with another vision, another way forward. Or they can look back on it and then see the reception with the release of the Snyder Cut and say, okay, maybe we can go ahead and continue on this thread. Like I said, the potential is out there.
Yeah, so I'm excited because we're, like I said, Justice League. It was a great idea, but because of the reshoots and then studio interference, it really got bogged down by just bad effects. Not a great story, and it's a bummer, especially because the ending got me super excited. The post-credit scene, which, spoiler if you haven't seen this is a minor thing, but we got to see Jesse Eisenberg as a bald Lex Luthor in his suit on a yacht, and a mysterious figure comes to his yacht, and it's Deathstroke, played by Joe Manganiello. I never.
Joe Manganiello, something.
Yeah.
Something.
Either way, we finally got to see him as Deathstroke, and his suit looked amazing. Perfect blend of a live action and a comic book suit. And that got me excited. But then, they started changing things up at DC, which is not terrible because we have been getting better movies, like you said, with Aquaman, Birds of Prey, Shazam, Wonder Woman, and then the upcoming films of Wonder Woman and Matt Reeves' Batman, which I'm really excited for. I'm hopeful that they'll both do great. So, like I said, it had bad effects, like Steppenwolf, Superman's bottom half of his face CGI. And like you said, Ben Affleck wasn't in his best shape. Costume design too, I didn't really care for that much. Looking back on it, like I think Batman's tactical suit at the end for the last fight was pretty too bulky. Did not look that functional.
You're a stickler for the looks.
I am a
that is on record.
I'm a huge person on character design and how, especially with comic book films, how they can translate from some of, again, movies will take liberties with suits and character stories and all that stuff, and I'm fine with that. It depends on the execution, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I said, the movie was just the CGI, the story. You could definitely felt like took a 180 from Batman versus Superman, and it's a bummer that caused so much change at Warner Brothers and DC Films. But this, I feel like, could be a good. It'll just be the conclusion of what I've been wanting to see with Snyder's little trilogy. So yeah, man, I can't get into how excited I am for next year. 2021 is gonna be a stacked year already.
Yeah.
This adds on top of that. This year was supposed to be stacked, but dang the Rona.
that just kind of got in the way of all the fun. But I mean,
it really did.
Luckily we're getting some good news and all that. They're having some good coming from whatever we're going through right now.
Absolutely. So yeah, man, that's about it for me. I just wanted to talk about the little history behind that, what led us to this point. But again, May 2021, that's an important date on my calendar now for Zack Snyder's Justice League. And again, I know I wasn't a fan of the Justice League, but let's not deny the fact that Whedon has still done some great stuff over his career. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
As much as I hated Justice League, I will still not deny the fact he gave us Avengers, which I know you yourself weren't thrilled with the visuals on it, but it's still a great movie, which we both love.
No. I mean, my qualms with the Avengers movies are just purely
technical.
nitpicky. I love that movie.
Just technical stuff, yeah. No,
yeah.
But and like I said before, I can't stress enough to whoever's listening to this, even if you have a problem with a movie, a show, what have you. If you got nothing constructive to say, just keep it to yourself. There's no need to attack someone on social media for any reason, because that's just making you a bully, which isn't okay. So The biggest thing I can say is if you got nothing positive to say, don't say it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I always say when we're signing off for the episode, be good to each other. I mean, that's always the message here. And when we don't want to like promote anything bad and stuff, like we don't want you to like go out there and bully people like Rye said, or just voice like concern. Like let's focus on having a positive discourse. We may not agree on everything, but at least we can have a civil discussion about the things that we don't agree with, and hopefully we learn little things from that conversation. But when it's a yelling match, there's no conversation to be had. That's just not productive.
No, yeah, that takes the validity of the argument immediately. Yeah, like we always say, stay bodacious, keep ranting. That's what I gotta say. Keep ranting, ladies and gentlemen. Be as positive as possible. Spread love, spread the love. That's all I gotta say.
Yep.
All right, my brother. Well, like I said, I'm excited. We'll continue this conversation another time, and I'll see you soon, my dude. Stay healthy and stay safe.
All right, man. You stay healthy, you stay safe, and everybody out there too. Stay healthy, be safe, be good, and release the Snyder Cut.
Oh my God! Hashtag releasing 2021. That's all I get. That's my hashtag now. All right, take it easy, my brother.
Adios, man.